Hello, students. Good morning. Today we are going to start a new poem, Dover Beach, written by Matthew Arnold. Before we start this poem, we will talk about Matthew Arnold. Matthew Arnold was born on 24 December 1822. He died on 15 April 1888. He was an English poet and cultural critic who worked as an inspector of schools. He was the son of Thomas Arnold, the celebrated headmaster of Rugby School. Matthew Arnold was a Victorian poet. He wrote many poems. Famous works of him are Sohrab and Rustam, The Scholar Gypsy, Culture and Anarchy, and he also wrote an elegy, Thyrsis. Here I want to tell you something about Arnold, that Arnold was elected professor of poetry at Oxford in 1857. And today we are going to study Dover Beach, which was written by Matthew Arnold in 1851 and published in 1867. Now we will start its analysis. Dover Beach is a dramatic monologue of 37 lines. It is divided into four unequal sections or paragraphs of 14 lines, 6 lines, 8 lines, and 9 lines. In the title, beach is more significant than Dover, for it points at the controlling image of the poem. On a pleasant evening, the poet and his love are apparently in a room with a window affording a view of the Straits of Dover on the southeast coast of England, perhaps in an inn. The poet looks out towards the French coast, which is not very far, some 26 miles away. It is attracted by the calm and serenity of the scene, the quiet sea, the moon, the blinking French lighthouse, the glimmering reflections of the famous white cliffs of Dover. He calls his love to the window to enjoy the scene and the sweet night air. There is one element out of tune with the peaceful scene, however, and the speaker strongly urges his love to listen to the rasping sound from the single beach as the waves, flowing in and out, drag the loose pebbles back and forth. This repetitive sound underlines the otherwise peaceful scene like background music, and suggest to the speaker some unspecified, unrelenting sadness. To this point, line number 14, the poem has been essentially straightforward description. In the second section, the speaker, presumably grounded in the classics as a Matthew Arnold was, is reminded that the Greek tragic dramatist Sophocles had heard the same sound in the Aegean Sea, which is part of Mediterranean, and it had suggested to him the turbid ebb and flow of human suffering, which had been the dominant subject of his plays. The poet and his companion, or perhaps we can say that she was her wife, are also reminded by the sound of a related but somewhat different thought. Like the sea, faith. Which faith? It is Christian faith. Once girded, girded to world like an attractive, bright colored scarf tightly binding all together. Now, however, the sea of faith is receding, it is becoming weak and weak. The power of religion to give unity and meaning is waning, leaving behind only the chill wind whistling over the desolate beach. The imagery of the last four lines of this section indicates that the loss of faith is not simply unfortunate but also results in a great sense of emptiness and sterility. In the final section, the poet turns from the troubling scene to his love, almost in desperation, seeking to find some meaning and stability in a world that is otherwise a void, and cries out for them to be true to each other. Because in this vision of the poet, there is nothing else possible to give meaning to life. The world, which is apparently beautiful and new, is in fact not so. The world can offer none of the promises it makes: joy, love, light, certitude, peace, help for pain. What the world is really like is battlefield at night, where soldiers rush about, pursuing and firing at shadows, unable to tell friend from foe. It is a dark plain where ignorant armies clash by night. This famous final image of that confused battlefield, probably inspired by Thucydides. Thank you.